Let's be honest. We all think we know the story. You've got Adam and Eve, this perfect garden, one tree that's off limits, and a talking snake. But it's that last part, the talking snake, that's not just weird, it's a clue. It hides one of the biggest, most misunderstood dramas in the entire biblical narrative. Okay, let's just pause on this for a second, because it's a genuinely strange question. An animal, a snake no less, starts speaking to you. What's your reaction? It's probably not to have a calm philosophical debate about divine commands. But look at Eve. No surprise, no screaming, no fear. The story just moves on, as if this is totally normal. So why? And right there, Eve's calm reaction, that's our first major clue. It's a huge anomaly that basically screams at us, hey, you're missing the original context here. Her lack of fear is a signal that, for the original audience, this whole encounter was never about an animal in the first place. Now, some people try to smooth this over by saying, well, maybe all the animals could talk back then. But that really misses the point. The story isn't trying to give us a biology lesson from the ancient world. No, it's doing something much more clever. It's using a well-known literary device to signal a supernatural event. This is a divine drama, and for centuries we've been miscasting the villain. So, to solve this mystery, we have to do something that's kind of tough. We have to take off our 21st century glasses and stop reading the story with our modern assumptions. We need to try and see the world as an ancient Israelite would have. Because once we do that, all the clues start to click into place. So let's break down that worldview. For an ancient reader, Eden wasn't just some beautiful park. No, it was understood to be the realm of God, like his headquarters, where he lived with his heavenly court, his divine council. And in their world, in their stories, when an animal starts talking, that was a clear-as-day sign that a god or some other supernatural being was on the scene. So they wouldn't be thinking talking animal, they'd immediately expect the villain to be a powerful divine being in disguise. For that ancient audience, the conclusion was immediate and obvious. This was an inside job. The serpent wasn't some random creature that slithered in from the outside. No, he was a divine being, a member of God's own heavenly team, who had gone rogue. Okay, so if this rebel was a divine being, you'd expect him to show up somewhere else, right? Well, he does. You have to remember, the Bible often works like a giant mosaic. You have to gather all the little tiles from different books to see the full picture. And there are two key texts that give us an almost perfect portrait of this guy. First up, let's head over to the prophet Ezekiel. He describes this magnificent, breathtaking being who was in Eden. But listen to the description. He's not talking about Adam. He's describing someone else, someone covered in brilliant, shining gemstone. So who is this being? The text gets very specific. It calls him an anointed guardian cherub. Now, in the ancient world, a cherub wasn't a cute, chubby baby. It was a powerful, fearsome divine being who guarded God's throne. And his sin, it wasn't about eating a piece of fruit. It was pure cosmic arrogance. He was filled with pride because of his own stunning beauty and wisdom. This just doesn't fit the story of Adam at all. Our second big clue comes from the prophet Isaiah, who talks about a fall from grace that sounds remarkably similar. He speaks of a morning star or a shining one who got booted out of heaven after trying to stage a coup. And his crime? He said in his heart, I will make myself like the Most High. All right, now let's put these two passages side by side, because when you do, whoa, the picture becomes crystal clear. We're talking about a brilliant, shining, divine being in both cases. Both are located in God's heavenly realm. Both sinned because of pride. They wanted to take God's job, and both were punished by being thrown down. I mean, it's a perfectly consistent profile of the exact same divine rebel. This brings us to the final, jaw-dropping piece of the puzzle. And the amazing part is that it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, right back in Genesis 3. It's all packed into the single Hebrew word used for the serpent. This is where everything locks together. The word is nachash. Now, on the surface, it just means serpent. Simple enough. But the biblical author chose this word with incredible genius, because in Hebrew, it's a brilliant triple entendre. It's a word with 3 different layers of meaning that together unmask the villain completely. Okay, let's break this down. It's so cool. First, as a noun, nachash means serpent. That's the disguise, the physical form he took. Second, if you use the same root letters as a verb, it means to practice divination, which is exactly what he's doing. He's giving Eve forbidden supernatural information. But third, and this is the kicker,
As an adjective, it can mean shining or polished like bronze. In other words, nachash isn't just a serpent, it's a shining one.
So, do you see it? The biblical author, with one single word, nachash, told the original audience everything they needed to know. The villain in the garden wasn't a snake. He was a shining one. That same radiant, prideful, guardian cherub from Ezekiel, and that fallen morning star from Isaiah. The serpent wasn't who he was, it was just his disguise. Now, once you see this, your whole understanding of the biblical story can shift. You realize the fall in Eden wasn't just a one-time thing. According to the source material, it's actually the first in a whole pattern of divine rebellion that runs through the Old Testament. It's the opening shot in a cosmic conflict that sets the stage for the entire human story.
For example, think about that really weird story in Genesis 6 about the sons of God and the daughters of men. Today, a lot of people try to explain it away as just a story about two different groups of humans getting together. But the original audience, who knew that the phrase sons of God referred to divine beings elsewhere in the Old Testament, would have seen it for what it was, another divine rebellion. In fact, that's exactly how the New Testament writers Peter and Jude read that story.
So what does all this mean? It means the biblical narrative is way, way bigger and more complex than we've often been taught. It's not just a story about human beings messing up and God trying to fix it. It's the story of a cosmic conflict, a war that's being fought in both the heavenly and the earthly realms at the same time. So let's do a quick recap of everything we've uncovered. Number 1, the serpent in Eden was actually disguised for a very powerful divine being. 2, the prophets Ezekiel and Isaiah give us a detailed profile of this being, a shining, prideful rebel who was cast out of heaven. 3, the Hebrew word nachash itself is this brilliant, multi-layered clue that reveals his true identity as a shining one. And finally, this whole event in Eden wasn't an isolated incident. It was the opening scene in a much larger cosmic war. And all of that leaves us with one final, kind of mind-blowing thought to chew on. It forces us to reread a story we were so sure we knew, and to ask ourselves, what if the Bible story of good versus evil isn't just about us? What if it's about a cosmic conflict, one that is far older, far deeper, and far bigger than we ever imagined?